2,
nice
and
tea
1.
critic, by the way.
We are live. What? Like
nice tea critic.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so the big boy. You guys like my really creaky chair? I mean, let's do this, right? Yeah, it's not happening. No.
We're all ready.
I got rid of the creaky chair. About time. Yeah, episode 10 of the Q&A. So let's dive right into the format. You want to see what my chair looks like? Okay, that's kind of awkward.
Quick, lift it up.
Let's see. People can actually see this chair.
There's a mini dumpster in the background.
A mini dumpster in the background.
Bottom left, I saw that.
Yeah.
Always got to put them in the trash. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Never not put them in the trash. Before Abraham my advice was, okay, Zartra laws. And prehistoric tuna. Shout out, bro. Shout out to the bro, the tuna man. The tuna from the past. It's like an undead tuna fish. You know what I mean? It's prehistoric. So anyway, let's talk about the format. Q&A.
All right, the format is... me or you?
Go for it.
All right, the format is we will be primarily taking questions from the Discord server because people have questions which are... Well, the first question I will be asking comes from the 22nd of October, so we have at least a week or two worth of questions here, and we try to get these ones out the way. On top of that, if we do get a super chat question, obviously, since me and Chase are sellouts, we will prioritize that one.
Coin operated.
Questions in the Discord.
Jab is coin operated. It's part of his Australian genes, you know.
Right. It's part of my contract too. I need to have a coin slot.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we will be primarily taking questions from the Discord and then the super chat, and then primarily more towards the end, that is when we will start taking questions from the YouTube chat. And at that point, that'll probably be around the end of the episode. So on that note, you want to get started, or do you have any announcements you need to make?
Announcements, yes. One, I haven't been around doing videos this week because I was really sick. And I'm still recovering, but more lectures are coming. I don't think we're going to be doing a premiere episode this week, although we still might. And we just migrated our podcast from our old host to a new host. And if you want to financially support the podcast, you can actually do that now. It tells you in iTunes and everywhere else. Basically, just click the link, or you can do it on the front page of the YouTube channel specifically, or eventually, hopefully you can now do it on our website at csjoseph.life. We're also going to be launching a Patreon soon, so that is coming. And I just met with the team tonight. We're checking out all the really cool stuff that we're going to be giving away with the various tiers for the Patreon, which I'm very excited about as well. And we're also working on a whole bunch of other really dope projects, including page 3 of the type grid document to give you additional tips and tricks on how to type people. So that is coming. Awesome. That sounds like it's the dopest as usual. So Jab, let's fire it off and throw some questions at me.
All right. Now, let's see. This first question. Sorry. A second. All right, the first question is, the NITI loop, is it real? And if so, what should we understand about it?
The NITI loop. So that would be basically for, are you talking like TI-NI optimistic? I'm assuming that's what they mean, right? So that would basically apply to ISTPs and INFJs, right?
I'm thinking maybe pessimistic, because usually when people talk about loops, they talk about a rat hole of conflict. So maybe it's the pessimistic.
Kind of, but we've also had people who get stuck using their hero and their child because their parent is not really developed either. You know what I mean? Like, because their parent function is not developed. You don't have that thing that's like controlling the child, man. Oh, that child's running around! Quick, get the broom, right? Or no, don't use a broom.
What the hell?
No, don't do that. No. Like actually, from a parenting standpoint, SI users, if you have SI user children, they actually respond very well to spanking. They don't really respond well to taking away their freedom or privileges per se. But if you take away
Right.
choices and freedoms and privileges away from SE children, that's more effective. It's a waste of time to spank SE children. Like, literally, don't do that. But to answer this question specifically, what do you do if you're caught in a TI-NI loop, or does it exist? Yes, it is a thing. It does exist. It's actually a very immature thing to do, a person can do. And the users, the types that actually typically do that are INFJs and ISTPs specifically, because you have that TI hero teaming up with the NI child, or you have the NI hero teaming up with the TI child in both those situations, right? So the one of the main issues that they have is that they just like, I want what I want and I think what I wanted, and it just turns into this, like, they just go off the handle and they make a lot of poor decisions. And the reason why this is because their parent function isn't really developed. So they have to learn how to develop their parent function in order to get that child under the reins, so that the hero is not necessarily always teaming up with the child and throwing them into immature or bad situations consistently. And that's basically, it's, kind of an issue per se. So just be aware of that. You want to make sure that you're focusing on developing your parent function and being as mature as possible. And which episode can you learn that? It is season 16, episode 2. What is the cognitive attitude of the parent function? And that will answer the rest of that question. So Jab, I see Cured Catering is there. Hello, Cured Catering. INTJ.
Is he asking that to me?
I don't know. What is bad with an ENTP woman? I have one, just so you know. It's amazing. Love your work.
Is that a question to me?
I don't know.
Or you?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure if he's dating INTJ, that he's an INTJ, or if he's saying, Mr. INTJ in this video, answer this question for me.
Yeah, please, Mr. Cured Catering, please, carroting. Yes, cured carroting. No, please put some additional context around your question. Otherwise, I'm just going to let Jab assume the context of your question and answer it himself.
What is bad with an ENTP woman? Okay.
All right, let's do it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it from Jab. He is an INTJ. What is wrong with an ENTP woman? It's the ideal highest compatibility for an INTJ, so technically not wrong, but you have to make sure that they are definitely loyal to you, and that you as a man, you are being as manly as possible. What does that mean? You have a job, you have your own place, and you have a car. Because if you don't have those things, that ENTP woman can't be loyal to you, and she's likely to end up with somebody else instead of you, potentially actually cheating on you in the process, because she doesn't have any respect for you as a person, right? So you got to make sure that you have those requirements ahead of time so that she stays loyal to you. Also, in order to make sure that she stays loyal to you, you have to consistently commit yourself to giving her a good experience at all times, right? But because she does that, because you're doing that for her, she'll automatically go out of her way to give you all the freedom in the world to do whatever you want to her, especially like in the bedroom. Like, you literally have full freedom to do whatever you want with like no limitations at all. And
only if they're comfortable.
Only if they're comfortable. Exactly. You got to make them as comfy as possible. Comfy is king when it comes to ENTPs. If they're not comfortable, you're liable to be thrown in the dumpster, no matter how manly you are. Also, understand why this happens. It happens because she has her NE or NI nemesis. So she's worried about her own future, right? So it's important to her that when she's having a relationship with you, that she's seeing like a really good investment into her future with you. And she wants to intertwine her fate with yours, knowing that if you fail, she fails, knowing that if she fails, you fail, basically. And she really is trying to get that relationship, to make her feel secure, make her feel comfortable with that as well. And again, like I said, the rewards for that is you get full freedom to do whatever you want to her and around her. And also, you'll have someone you can always go to ask them what they think, and they'll just tell you bluntly the way it is. That way, you know how to operate, and they'll constantly make you feel good, make you feel valued, and you'll be able to value her, and it'll light her up like a Christmas tree, etc. And you won't have to worry about her betraying you at all, because she'll be loyal to you till the end of time, as long as you meet those requirements. But if you meet those requirements, you're good to go, and that relationship is like literally set for like ever. So just check that out. I mean, Jab, did you tell that I was like kind of doing my William Shatner impression there for a second? Just saying.
Not really, but I mean, if you want to go back, Chase gave me some advice once, like a year ago. So he said that when it comes to ENTP women, the thing you need to be very cautious of is that they're always going to try and improve. And you need to understand that that's just the way they are. Like, they despise stagnation, and they always want to be improving because they're improving themselves. They want you to be improving with them because they don't want to outgrow you and feel like that they're too good for you, because that's going to break their heart.
Exactly.
So they don't want to get
Jeb.
so much better than you that they have to look down on you, because if they're looking down on you, then they're no longer going to respect you. And if they no longer respect you,
They're not comfortable
that's going
anymore.
to hit them in the NI nemesis.
Yeah.
That NI nemesis is going to be like, oh my God, this
I can't
future,
have a future with this person. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to not NE nemesis their intentions and be like, oh my God, they think I'm not good enough for them when they're trying to improve me.
Yeah. Don't jump to conclusions. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to give them the benefit of the doubt. And this is more of a, I want us to improve together, as opposed to, you're not good enough for me, therefore you need to improve. And definitely, I think I might even just be repeating myself. It's not about, they want you to rise up with them, and they don't want you to be stagnant. So I don't know what more to say other than that. Yeah, Chase is getting. He's always had the hots.
Always.
Yeah.
Flamboyant. Yeah, let's definitely do that. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
in a parallel universe, we're a gay couple.
Yeah, definitely. In and out of the closet for that parallel universe, for sure. How do I feel about duality?
Oh, God.
Oh, man. I've just been triggered.
Is this the sixth time that question has been asked? I think it's going to cover me.
Duality can go burn in a dumpster fire going down a hill and go and fall into the depths of the pits of hell forevermore. Duality is a lie. Yeah, that's how I feel about duality.
Quick, someone make a meme of Chase's face looking all disgusted, and then the question at the bottom is, what do you think about the duality?
Like, really? Duality? Triggered.
Yeah, I mean, I know we answered that in the previous Q&A session.
No offense, Gilly. I'm not trying to be offensive to you at all. It's okay. People ask me that question all the time, but yeah, I really don't like duality at all. It's absolutely terrible. Yeah, it's really high camaraderie, but it for shoulder to shoulder relationships, but it's definitely not a face to face relationship at all. Not ideal. Yeah, always make new emojis, please, in the Discord server. That is awesome. What's the next question, Jab?
Okay, you mentioned the children being able to switch between the types in their quadras. When your type is set where you can no longer... Sorry, when is that your type set where you can no longer switch between these types in your quadra?
Okay, what?
So what this person is saying...
There. Yeah, translate, please.
So what they're saying is, when you're a child, you are in a quadra and you bounce between the four sides of your mind before one gets set as your personality and your ego. And what they're asking is, when does that happen?
Okay, so when does it get set in their... So when they hit adolescence. When they hit adolescence is when it gets set into their ego, for sure.
So around 11 to 13?
If they have trauma in their life, it can actually be before that, because they get stuck in that side of their mind. Now, if they come out of trauma before adolescence, then there's still a chance for them to explore the rest of their quadra. We're going to be diving into this deeper in season 17. It's going to be talked about consistently there, as well as the next method for how to type somebody as well in season 17. I'll be going over that at length for sure.
All right. The next question is, seems like a FWP kind of question, but it is, what is the purpose of each type? So So I think this is more like a grand plan-esque question. Like, does every type have a purpose in humanity?
Absolutely. The reason why is that every type itself is basically a puzzle piece. It's only a piece of the total human cognition that's available to humanity. Yes, there's some pieces that are rarer than others, but then again, if you look at it, I can't believe I'm going astrology right now, but I've been playing a lot with the cardsoflife.com for fun, and I don't really do astrology, but if you think about it this way, there's fewer people born in winter than there are people born in summer, for example, or the fall, or et cetera. Statistically, right? How often do you hear about people born in May, June, July, August, September compared to people who are born in December, right? It's obviously a lot less, right? So you think about that in terms of type. There's some types that are more common than others, but again, it's still a puzzle piece. Why? Well, guess what? You have puzzle pieces everywhere in this big puzzle, and you still have the corners, right? There's less corner pieces or side pieces, basically, in total than there are the rest of the pieces in the middle, obviously, right? So with that being said, you have to look at each type as a specific puzzle piece. And those... and you can even use an analogy like God, for example. I think Soren Kierkegaard said this. Correct me, somebody, please. But whoever that philosopher was that said about how when God looks at humanity, he's seeing his image in the mirror. He's looking at his face in the mirror, basically, and that's because each humanity is a piece of that mirror, basically, and that's the purpose of type. No one type is better than the others. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses, and it's very balanced and perfect puzzle pieces that fit together with certain other pieces, with compatibility, with camaraderie, depending on different situations, different kinds of relationships, but it all fits together in this interesting matrix. And that's not a two-dimensional matrix. It's actually a four-dimensional matrix. Because you also have to account for the metaphysical plane outside of the three-dimensional plane as well. So it looks like a kind of a donut shape, actually, more so with all the different aspects of cognition. If you're going to look at all of the specific dimensions of cognition, it's actually just a giant sphere with all the dimensions, where you have 8 cognitive functions times 4 sides of the mind, and each, and then you have like 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, cubed or beyond cubed, basically. You have that many total dimensions available to you, and types, basically, because you have a cognitive function that is responding from a superego standpoint versus a cognitive function that's responding to an ego standpoint. The data and the information that flows between all these cognition functions, it literally kind of looks like almost like a Tesla coil, actually, and how the energy moves throughout, as if you like cognition itself is an energy, right? And that's how that works. So each type specifically is a piece of that puzzle, this grand design, right? And that's why every type is really important as a result.
Right. Okay, cured catering.
Reading Carl Jung, personality types, any part to look out for? Yes, the cognitive senses. Carl Jung, basically, when it talks about personality types, the section that he speaks about cognitive senses regarding, the top 2 functions, which according to Carl Jung, it was just only the 2 senses. He didn't really talk about the rest of the senses in terms of there being an actual function stack, just that he could identify the top 2, and that was good enough for him, basically, at that point in time. Anything relating to cognitive senses, according to Jung, is definitely what I would recommend. But Dr. John Beebe actually fleshes that out even more. So that's what I would recommend you check out, Cured Catering, from that point of view.
Right. On a side note, there is actually a really interesting YouTube question, so I'm going to skip to that for one quick second.
Sure, and let's do it.
This is consisting of 2 people. So the first one says, I'm an identical twin. We are both INFJ. Is that common? I can't find other twins like us. And then that's followed up with another comment by someone called Gilly, who says, Pam, I'm an identical twin as well, and we have identical twin sons. None of us have the same type. So I mean, I would have commented that just shows that type is not genetic.
Yeah, type is not genetic. And also, if you're identical twins and you have the same type, it's very unlikely that you actually have the same type. It's probably one of you is a P or a J, or one of you is an E or an I, basically, in that regard. It's just a lot of people are so used to mistyping people because they're not following the methodology presented by the type grid according to Linda Behrens or Stephen Montgomery, etc. And they're actually following the more letter-based dichotomies according to Isabel Myers, right? Or the David Kiersey's of the world, which is something that I don't recommend. So typically, most people are mistyped. I would say the MBTI test is probably 20 to 25% accurate on average.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, I think Nova said this right, Jab, where it's like, if you take an MBTI test, you're 1.5 times more likely to have a mistype, basically, was based on some statistics or something that she read recently.
I remember reading a research article. I think I spoke about this in a previous video. If you retake it, you have a 40% chance of getting a different type. And that's beyond the already inconsistencies within the test. It just goes to show the inherent biases within each of us based on our state of mind at the time of which we're taking the test.
Well said.
Let alone problems with the test itself, which would amplify beyond that 40%.
Yeah. So you have human error of the test giver and the human error of the test taker. Like, what are you going to do? It's a problem, right? So, and you have the type of the person who developed the test to begin with. You have the type of the person that's actually taking the test and how are they going to respond. It's not a one size fits all solution. You can't do that. You just can't do that. So that way, you know, there's just no way.
And see, that's the problem though. That actually discredits the science itself, because if you look at some of the more renowned psychologists, they regard this field as, well, Jordan, like for example, the Jordan Peterson is a proponent of the Big Five because MBTI is too inaccurate. Well,
yeah, or Ty Lopez, who's like, ooh, the Hexaco test. The Hexaco test is way better than anything MBTI related. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that the MBTI is what, 20, 25% accurate, or you're 1.5 times more likely to get a mistype. Okay, Ty Lopez, that doesn't mean that there's a problem with the science. What that means is there's a problem with the test. The MBTI is nothing more than just a test. It is not Jungian analytical psychology. Seriously. But, leave it up to Ty Lopez to be making that decision for everybody else, and then tell everyone else that, Hexaco test is the best one, where it like rates you on your narcissism or whatever. Like, okay.
Right.
And I guarantee you a lot of people on this the stream right now are Googling Hexaco test right now. So, I mean, while you're doing that, Google the Big Five while you're at it. Like LOL want to buy human nature versus human nurture, please. Plux.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because of that shitty test developed by Isabel Myers, the entire science gets a bad rap. But yeah, I have nothing else to say. Let's just keep moving forward. Next question. What should triple direct people do? Oh, I can hear myself.
Whoa.
All right. Well, what happened?
I didn't do anything.
Am I on your speakers?
Nope. I reset the audio engine. Let's see if that helps.
All right. I can still hear myself.
I didn't do it.
Can you go into your Discord settings and set it to your microphone?
Yep. Stand by.
I think
Discord settings. Changing to the microphone. You still hear me?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear myself. Perfect. All right, let's go forward.
Awesome.
Where was the question? Where did it go? There it is. So what should triple direct people do in situations where one needs to be more informative?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that question. Who asked that question? Like, seriously, who asked that question?
Hakon.
Oh, okay. All right, Hakon. Thank you for asking that question. That's really deep. So what types are triple direct? Let's talk about that first. So it's, I believe it's ESTPs and ISTPs. Yeah, STPs. STPs are triple direct. And they need to be more informative. Okay, so what you guys need to do in that situation is actually you have to be gentle, basically. You can be direct, but you want to be as gentle as possible. Make it more FE oriented. Try to engage your extroverted feeling. Be as gentle as possible. Give them a good experience when you can, and also because you shouldn't try to be informative. You should not try to be informative at all. Like, don't do that. Like, if you're going to do that, you're going to engage like your super ego. So imagine that ENFP super ego coming out and being informative, or that INFP super ego coming out for the ISTP. Not recommended. Like, don't do it. Just stay away. Just stay away from that entirely. So be direct. Still be direct, but just be as gentle as possible. Focus on being a gentleman, like literally, or gentlewoman. Be as gentle as possible and treat the other person like they're delicate. Now, of course, when you're trying to be informative in that situation, why do I need to be delicate or informative? I mean, it completely goes against STP nature. STPs exist to make other people stronger. That's why they exist. They are all about strength building, finding strength in other people's, detecting strength, building strength in others, building loyalty into others, building obligation into others. Like, for example, an STP in my life who's very close to me, and I actually started learning martial arts specifically so I could take him down, because he bothers me every now and then, and he can get pretty violent if left unchecked.
Wow.
One of the greatest contributions he ever made to me was gently telling me that I need to have more respect for elderly people. And this is coming from an STP who spent a lot of time as in old folks' homes as a nurse, and even though he's like getting all cranky at people sometimes, has a very large black book with all the women he's been with, etc. He really did care, and he really did care about people. And he always maintained, he maintained with me that, that I did not have enough respect for the elderly. Right. And he changed that, and he made me stronger to making sure that I always have respect for the elderly, which I do. And it's specifically because of his influence. Right. And yeah, he's triple direct, and he had to be direct about that, but so yeah, as STPs, please continue to be direct. Just be gentle. That's it. If you're concerned about how people are going to receive you, just be gentle and make it more FE oriented. And if FE is not going to work, just focus on your extroverted sensing as gentle as possible. It is harder, though, for ISTPs to be gentle than ESTPs, because ESTPs have more SE awareness, which means they're able to be more gentle. So this is the difference between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson versus Eminem. The Rock is an ESTP, Eminem is an ISTP, but you can automatically tell that The Rock is way more gentle than Eminem, for example. So if you're an ISTP, you really have to try extra hard to be as gentle as possible, because the ESTP kind of has you beat on that side. So just remember that if you're dealing with somebody who's like super sensitive, and you kind of feel the need to go in the direction of being informative, and you're triple direct, and you're concerned that it's just going to be too bad, just switch on the gentle. Just put on the gentleman, put on the gentlewoman, be as gentle as possible, because they're like this delicate flower and whatnot. And I think that they'll be able to receive your message, and you'll actually be able to teach them something and make them stronger, instead of potentially alienating them, which is what you're afraid of doing. So that's how I'd answer that.
Right. Okay, next question. Do you know of any mature ISTPs?
Yeah,
and I'm guessing
my former boss, who was my supervisor, is ISTP, and he made me into a better engineer. Absolutely fantastic individual, constantly questioning me at every turn, verifying everything that I do. And it got kind of a little creepy every now and then, because like he'd like put surveillance cameras everywhere and watch what we're doing sometimes, which is really annoying. Like really annoying how ISTPs do this. And they do this because they can be insanely controlling, because they're concerned that their freedom will be taken away from them if they're not controlling others for some reason. But that's their ESTJ shadow. So it's not, it's actually can be a good thing for those other people to be controlled in that regard. And it can actually be useful and helpful to them because those people are probably not willing to be taught by the ISTP. So the ISTP is like, okay, well, you're not willing to allow me to teach you, so I guess I have to control you then. If you don't want to be controlled by an ISTP, you need to be teachable. Like, it's that simple. Allow yourself to be teachable, and then you will not be controlled anymore. And the ISTP will be your best friend, basically. And that's how I had this relationship with my supervisor. I decided one day that I was going to stop being a stick in the mud and that I was going to allow myself to be teachable and actually listen to him for once, instead of just arrogantly believe that I had all the answers myself. Because remember, FI users, they're very likely to be selfish human beings. TI users, they're very likely to be conceited, prideful, arrogant human beings, right? And I was being arrogant, and I had to humble myself. So I humbled myself around him, and I allowed him to teach me, right? And then as a result of that, I was able to see his brilliance. I was able to learn a lot of new skills. I was able to become way better in my career as a result and land this job that I have now in the Bay Area, specifically because of his influence. And I definitely see him as a grand mentor. And I actually got the opportunity after having that experience with him and having that relationship with him in that way, where my boss called me and asked me for a letter of recommendation so he could get an even higher job. And I did. Mm-hmm. Since when do people hear about their former bosses calling them for a letter of recommendation? Like, that doesn't happen, right? Well, it did happen with me. And that just goes to show. And yeah, he's a very mature. He's the most mature ISTP I've ever met. He's up there with my ISTP cousin as well, who are very mature, very well-developed human beings. And I even coached an ISTP last night, actually, who's definitely in the top 5 ISTPs I've ever met. You know, people like her and people like my former boss, my cousin, it just goes to show how awesome ISTP can actually be with their contributions to fellow human beings. You just have to listen to them. You have to be teachable. Otherwise, if you're arrogant and not teachable, they're either going to control you, shackle you, or light you on fire because you probably deserve it. So,
right. All right. Let's go with the next question. This is basically a callback to when we were bashing the 4-letter system of MBTI. Being like, so what this person is asking, or what they're saying is, INFJs and INFPs apparently are often mistyped for the other, suggesting similarity. And of course, the 4-letter MBTI designations are similar, but the 4 cognitive functions in the ego are completely different. Given this, how can the similarities in mistyping exist? That comes down to the JP letter.
Okay. The reason why is because they both have NFJ, like the INFP has an NFJ shadow and the INFJ has an NFP shadow. So they both have similar components to the other already within their souls. And given that we live in a shadow-focused society and the first world nations of the earth are shadow focused, they're not subconscious focused. Usually third world countries are subconscious focused. Based on that, their people are more integrated with their shadow side. So the INFJ would statistically be more integrated with the ENFP shadow, or the INFP would be more statistically integrated with their ENFJ shadow. And because of that, when they take the test can't really differentiate using the letter dichotomies of the cognitive functions, and it has a hard time keeping track of the J versus P, which is why statistically people that claim they're INFJ are actually INFP, and people who claim we're INFP are actually INFJ. Another way of looking at it is INFPs have FI hero. FI hero is a decision judging function, decision making. FI hero is for decision making, yet they are a P type according to the MBTI. See, Socionics doesn't have this problem. This is actually where Socionics is actually stronger than the MBTI. Specifically because of that. And INFJs, although they are a J-type according to MBTI, their hero is NI hero, which is a perceiving function. It's actually a P function, right? So it's just a limitation of the MBTI system in and of its own right. If you want to find out more, watch the episode titled, How Do INFJs Compare to INFPs? I actually talk about this at length for like literally 90 minutes. You can figure all that out and understand exactly why they are different and should be different. So check out that lecture.
Well, another point of contention is it's not only true with INFPs and INFJs, it's also INTPs, INTJs.
Yeah.
I know. I've personally ran into that problem.
ENFJs, ENTPs,
Yeah.
ENTJs. I mean, we have talking with famous
intuitive.
people like literally saying that I'm an ENTJ, and he made multiple videos about me being an ENTJ. And I'm like, wow, bro, you're totally doing that same thing that the MBTI gets wrong. Congratulations.
Right.
I am so not shaking your hand.
Okay. Let's go to that next question. All right, so this one's a bit of a long one, so bear with me.
All right, bearing.
Okay, so this person thinks that they're fairly confident that they're an INTP.
Okay.
However, listening to your Who Are the INTP video, and you say INTP love telling stories, but he dreads it. Is that a sign that I am not an INTP or that I'm an unhealthy INTP since 1, I am not interested in sharing stories with people, and 2, even though I am drinking champagne and magically switch into friendly and talkative and manage to end up entertaining folks, I get no joy from this. It is taxing and the conversation is pointless. I have to go rest in solitude the next day.
I mean, it could be like SE Inferior because he's insecure about telling stories to other people because he may not have stories to tell. But the thing is, though, as an NTP, I had similar experiences when I was younger. I didn't have enough life experience to actually be able to provide those stories. And I was always so enamored by everybody else who's able to tell stories, right? And
right.
And then eventually one day it clicked because I had enough life experience to actually tell all those really cool stories that I've done, in the past. So I definitely could see how an NTP would have that. It's just a lack of life experience. Basically, it needs more SI information.
I think a crucial piece of information is left out of this statement, and I think it's how many people are the story being told to. Telling stories to one person is different to telling stories to a crowd of people, because that goes from introversion to extroversion. Because it sounds like he's getting worn out by being too extroverted. And he talks about champagne, and then he magically becomes extroverted, switches into his shadow. He can tell the stories, but too much extroverting wears him out. So the question is, does he also hate telling stories if it's like in a one-on-one situation?
Right. So the context of the conversation, if the context is there's more people, of course, he'd be more tired out. If it's just one person at a time, it'd be an issue. And yeah, an FE Inferior would be stressed out in ESFJ subconscious mode to be able to handle that for sure. And it's interesting how he says, when he drinks alcohol, he goes into his ENTJ shadow, which kind of seems like it's very pointless. It's like SE trickster. And there's not really any TI in there. It just kind of seems pointless. He's just giving people a good experience. Okay, yeah, whatever. And then, yeah, but what about me? What am I getting out of this, right? And that's a very SI child point of view from that point. And yes, I've looked into Enneagram, Jason Rodriguez. Yes, I have. And I don't like Enneagram because Enneagram has a hard time differentiating between human nature and human nurture, which is why I don't talk about the Enneagram, because I think it is a very limiting system. So.
Okay. Next question. Advice for getting over any parent and deciding on a path forward. Can any other type help the situation?
So advice to an NE parent finding the absolute best path forward. Yeah, you just go to somebody else and ask them, hey, what would you want to do if you were in my shoes? Specifically an NI user. Problem solved.
Right. What do you think I should do?
Or if you were in my shoes, if you were me, what would you want to do? You pose the question that way. Exactly that way. Zen Moods asks, how can we get coached by you, Chase? There is a coaching link in the description of all of my lectures on YouTube. You can also go to csjoseph.life, click coaching, and off to the races, basically. What you got? Yeah. What you got, Jab? What's next?
Next question is, what do you think of the term ambivert?
Ambivert. Ambivert is not anything that exists. It's not actually real. No.
Nope. Right. Isn't that just shadow integration, the ability to swap between two sides of your mind?
It's total integration, because remember, your shadow and your subconscious are always the opposite version of your ego. So if your ego is introverted, then that means your subconscious and your shadow sides of your mind are extroverted. and vice versa, right? So if you're like an ambivert, that just means you're integrated on one of the other sides of your mind. You can switch between the two very easily. So you come off as an ambivert in various situations. Now, what types are typically told that they're ambiverts? ENTPs, for one, my type, we are the most introverted of the extroverts. Why is that? Because when we go to social events, we're actually uncomfortable and we get stuck in our ISFJ subconscious while in those social events until someone, usually an NJ, comes up to us, making us comfortable, inviting us to talk to people, introducing us to people, etc., getting us out of our comfort zone and making us more comfortable in this new zone that we're in typically. Another way to look at it would be INFJs. Though they are introverts, they are the most extroverted of the introverts, with all their need, their absolute need for social interaction and giving other people a good experience consistently while making people feel good such that they actually earn recognition from other people. So not really into the whole ambiversion thing at all. That's another thing we could throw into the fiery dumpster down the hill into the pits of hell.
Yeah, but theoretically, someone who was fully integrated, wouldn't ambivert be an approximation as to whether they were extroverted or introverted?
Yes. Yes, TE parent. Yes. I can't disagree with that. Yes. Yes, technically.
All right. This question comes from AREG, and he asks, is Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction useful for men? And in 2 words,
yes.
What valuable stuff will it teach us?
What? Yes. What valuable stuff will it teach? Like, you find out what your seductive style is. You can identify the other people's seductive styles from a human nurture standpoint. That's super important, right? And you also find out what seductive styles you yourself prefer. Like, for example, actually, I'm going to look this up right now. So, Art of Seduction, seductive styles. Okay. And let's see. The 9 types of seducers. Okay, cool. And so mine, my primary one is the coquette. ENTPs primarily are coquettes. That's a fact. And what am I most attracted to? I love the siren. Love the siren. I love the siren a lot. I also have some rakish tendencies as well as like my secondary one as well. I really do like the ideal lover, which is the third one. Not really into dandies. Not really into dandies. Not really the natural either. Not really into the natural. Not into charmers at all. Nope. Not into charismatics, and not really into the star. So basically, for me, it's the siren or the ideal lover, right? And I'm kind of like primarily the coquette with a little bit of a rake as like a secondary seductive style. But yeah, men should absolutely know their seductive style. So also should women. And another good thing about the art of seduction is that you get this huge list of what not to do, which is super important. I think people need to figure out what not to do. Now,
right.
If you're considering doing some seducing, I'm actually going to be releasing a series soon. It's going to be a private lecture series, and it's going to be the How to Seduce lecture series, which we'll be making available soon. And that's going to be a fantastic approach for us. And also. The other thing is too, if you haven't done so already, seriously, do yourself a favor and watch season 4. It's a playlist on YouTube or on the podcast. Listen to season 4. It's only 6 episodes, and it's how do intimate relationships actually work. It will go very well with you to at least know that, because that's the basics. And if you don't even have that, much less the content of season 6, if you don't have the content of season 6 and season 4, 6, and 13 technically, which are the human nurture series or the human nurture seasons in the CSJ content that's actually available. If you don't even have that down, you're definitely not going to be seductive at all. for the most part,
Right.
because people who are actually mature will be able to detect those weaknesses and have nothing to do with you. And so the higher quality lovers that you could have access to, yeah, you're not getting any of that at all. Like, you may as well just move on and give up and go cry in a corner where you belong because you're a man child. So yeah, don't be a man child. Do what 4, 6, and 13 actually tells you to do. Read Art of Seduction, understand your seductive style, understand what can make you anti-seductive, etc. Sometimes you actually need to be anti-seductive to get people off of your back. It's very helpful sometimes. Trust me.
Right.
So, it's useful. So please get the unabridged audio version of Art of Seduction and literally listen to the entire thing. The book is available on my website. Just go to csjoseph.life, click books, because it's there and you should read it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know why you like the siren, and it's because I'm always serenading you.
Absolutely.
So on that note, let's keep moving forward.
Yeah, you're always channeling your inner Dwayne The Rock Johnson and telling me,
Exactly.
What can you say?
Exactly. Does it take more energy to go into the shadow or subconscious?
It depends. Typically, because we are a shadow-focused society, it's a lot easier to go into shadow. If you're growing up in a subconscious-focused society, then it would be the subconscious. It'd be a lot easier. There's a lot of social pressure and a lot of nurtural issues that impact cognitive transitions. And sometimes you may be transitioning into a type that's not as culturally acceptable or as familially acceptable, which is what my problem was, because my ego and my shadow was not acceptable by my parents, but my subconscious was the least accepted of them all, because there was already two SFJs in my family, so I couldn't even be an SFJ. So I had to settle for an NT side, and that was not accepted by my family because they don't want a pragmatic in their affiliative family, basically. And I had to put up with that, and still kind of put up with that for years, or in years later. And, I'm still dealing with those challenges today, like literally today. I had an interesting phone call where that was proven yet to me again. So yeah, definitely, it's hard to be a pragmatic if you're the minority. But then there's families who are like overly pragmatic, and there's one affiliative, and that person ends up being alienated too, because they're trying to do the right thing and they're being forced to not do the right thing consistently. Like, imagine an INFP in that kind of family. That would be just pure insanity. And actually, a recent INFP that I talked to at lunch with expressed that was their childhood, which basically sucks. So how to solve that problem? Have more children. I actually told this to somebody earlier. If you want to make your children healthy, having a lot of variety of cognition available to you in your immediate family is super awesome and super helpful for literally everyone. And if you're concerned about increasing the population of the planet for those who are anti having babies, then do everyone a favor and adopt. Seriously.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, more people in your immediate family means more cognition available, which means healthier children and healthier people in the long run. So,
is there a sweet spot, like a number, or is it the more the better?
The more, honestly, it's really the more the better. Although some people would argue that you get to a point where there's just too much people, and then some children are not getting the attention. This is why I am very, very in support of something called shared parental responsibility. And shared parental responsibility, we have a bunch of kids and actually more than just two adults directly engaged in parenting the children. That is even more useful in the long run, especially when multiple men are present, especially because the benefits are actually increased exponentially. And you can find this out in Warren Farrell's book, The Boy Crisis, where he talks about this at length. You can also find about it in Christopher Ryan's work as well.
Right. So uncles should take a role in helping raise, their nephews and nieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Can you give examples of ESFP/ESTPs using their NI inferior and having extreme willpower? I can see how this might relate to the virtue of ESFP, but as an ESTP myself, I can't see a lot of aspects in my life where this aspirational NI has come through. I am trying to keep an extremely strict budget for over 1 year's time for a future goal. Is this an example or something else?
Yeah, really, if you want to see some good examples of people who have really good NI-inferior willpower, just look at Taylor Swift and look at
I was
The
about
Rock.
to say.
Like, seriously.
Taylor Swift, The Rock.
Taylor Swift and The Rock. You have ESTP, The Rock. You have ESFP, Taylor Swift. And if you don't agree with me on that, you need to be watching season 20 on the YouTube channel where we talk about The Rock and Taylor Swift specifically. And you'll learn why they are their types. But the point is, those two people, they have very well developed NI-inferior. You could utilize them as an example. But basically, it's to have the strength to never give up. Like, seriously, not giving up. If you're giving up, that's the actual problem. That's you being NI-inferior and being too afraid. Sometimes you just have to be okay with failing. You have to actually end up seeking failure and expecting failure, and not really expecting failure, but as much as like knowing that failure is the default, failure is the likelihood, but knowing that failure also brings you gifts, actually more gifts than success, because failure will bring you wisdom, which is more valuable than fame and fortune. So recognize failure's importance. If you need to learn more about failure, watch the recent Star Wars film, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and go to skip to the part where Yoda shows up talking to Luke as the tree is burning, and Yoda's speech that he gives to Luke is literally everything you need to understand how important failure is for augmenting that into NI-inferior for absolute sure. Yeah, and delayed gratification. Thanks, Periani.
Okay. Next is just a comment from Cyrillic name. And that is, this is the question. Cyrillic name that I can't read properly, or at least I think I could read it, but I don't want to make an idiot of myself if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And that is, you should totally consider setting up a TED Talk or public lecture about your passion for typology and how it relates to fatherlessness.
Well, I could, but one, I don't know how to get into a TED Talk, and I was advised never to touch TED Talks with a 10-foot pole because recently there was someone on TED Talks telling people that apparently pedophilia was a sexual orientation, and that happened at a TED Talk. So why would I want to associate myself with those people? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I haven't really gone in the TED Talk direction, because is that exactly a credible place to give a talk? I mean, that is, yes, thank you, John Allen. That is disgusting. And it's unbelievable. I can't believe, like, whoever runs TED or TEDx or whatever, if they even, is there anyone running that? Are they filtering these people? Like, no. And that's not a venue that I would have any interest in participating in because of speeches or people like that they just allow to willy-nilly give those types of, ridiculous talks. It's unbelievable. And it's like, well, what about freedom of speech, man? And it's like, freedom of speech is fine, but you better be willing to bear the consequences of what you say regardless. You know what I mean? Like, freedom of speech does not mean you get to say things without consequences. Like, come on. So, and the consequences that they have to suffer is me not talking at their venue. Sorry.
Right. Okay, I accidentally skipped this question, but fortunately it was brought to my attention. I thought I already said it, but apparently I didn't. And that is, can you elaborate more on why you think the inferior function is the most important function in the ego?
Well, the inferior function can actually become stronger than the hero. If you develop it, cultivate it.
Aspirational.
Yeah, once it becomes aspirational, it becomes your strongest function. So for an ENTP, I could have diehard loyalty. Let me explain the diehard loyalty of an ENTP. This is why ENTPs are typically the best scouts, thieves, rogues. # World of Warcraft, right? Also, the best spies. Read Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the story of George Smiley. they're so loyal. They're so diehard loyal to their organization or their country or their nation that they can actually go behind enemy lines and live as a member of the enemy, become an enemy citizen, while still being loyal to their previous country, right? And not succumb to the culture or the ways of doing things or buy into the culture of the enemy. They're still loyal to their homeland, right? And that's how diehard loyal SI Inferior can actually become, right? So that's one of the reasons why ENTPs are the best spies. On top of, there's a few other ones as well, but that just gives you like an example as to why the inferior function is important. Everyone needs to develop their inferior function. It can be the strongest function that you have once it switches to aspirational, absolutely dominating everything. Now, when we talk about the demon function, that will kind of slightly skew it if people can unlock the fourth gateway. But people that unlock the fourth gateway, I mean, you're like literally getting into enlightenment territory. So that's a little bit different. So, but in terms of life here on Earth, aspirational function is what you need to dominate everything and get past everything and reach your dreams as a human being here in this life and everything this life has to offer, etc. So yeah, definitely develop it.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question is Mr. Joseph. Can you give me a few examples of behaviors that ISTPs with poorly developed SE parents would display?
With poorly developed SE parent, abusing their wives physically.
Right.
Yeah. Becoming very ragey and uncontrolled, needing anger management, lacking in self-discipline and being insanely impulsive on a regular basis, addictions to drugs and alcohol and anything sensual. That's what happens when you don't have a developed SE parent.
Yeah, I mean, that covers it.
Yep.
I mean, triple movement just wants to keep moving. Let's go to the next question. Then that is, how do you, as an ENTP, approach efficient studying? Might the process be like reading while taking notes or listening? Just what the best circumstances are for learning about a specific subject. Probably differs depending on the type, right?
So I guess you're asking like, how do I study or how do I get
right. As an ENTP. So how do you as an ENTP approach studying? Like, do you read while taking notes? Do you listen while taking notes? Do you throw darts at a dartboard and then memorize those facts magically?
Okay, so if I'm studying for like an exam that I have to pass, I'll read the entire textbook from start to finish, and then I'll just take the practice exam over and over and over again while referencing the textbook to answer those questions. That's one way that I do it. In terms of mastering a subject, I basically read, and I read constantly. I probably consume on average about 3 to 5 books a month right now. Although I have been a little bit slower recently, and I'm at about 2 books a month right now. But yeah, that's basically how quickly I read and consume books. And how do I read so many books? Easy. I put books next to my toilet, and I have audiobooks that anytime I have downtime when I'm grocery shopping or when I'm driving or I'm on the airplane or whatever, I am listening to books constantly. So that's it. So any downtime that I have, even when I'm doing dishes or cooking, I am all about basically audiobooks, constant audiobooks. So get an Audible account. It definitely can go pretty well for you.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, Chase is to read as Snoop Dogg is to weed. Am I right?
Wow. I like Girl Scout cookies, just saying.
Yeah, instead of weed, your life is read.
So Perry Ani asks, tell us about your life at the moment. How are you doing? I am very exhausted on a regular basis. Being a father and having a day job, a salary position where the hours aren't exactly 8 hours a day, for an international company on top of running CSJ. And I just started another company on the side while dealing with trying to get a 6-pack and lifting 3 to 4 times a week to that end, while doing a lot of walking and various other activities as well. I'm really freaking busy and learning valuable lessons in delegation. My executive team basically tackled me this week and said, "What the hell are you doing? Tell me everything you're doing." And I showed them that I updated the Trello board and like, oh, wow, it's a lot of stuff. And then we started assigning things and people started getting things done. And we've gotten more work done for CSJ this week than we have probably in the last 2 months combined. So it's been fantastic while I've been recovering from my recent sickness. But yeah, that's basically how my life is going right now.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. When will you make a male versus female videos to show where types differ based on gender?
I already technically did, because I answered that question specifically in season 13. So refer to season 13 and you'll have the answer to that question.
Okay. Is it ever worthwhile to attack a person's weakness to make them a better person? E.g. telling an ESTJ you're a bad person because of these reasons. Example, you lack empathy, you lie too much, you exercise too much.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes.
You only care about the status quo. What are the odds of activating the person's demon, and is there a positive outcome to doing so?
Okay, well, you can attack someone's weaknesses, which is usually their inferior function, but only after you've tried to get them to listen to you by attacking their critic. If attacking their critic fails, then definitely go in the inferior direction and kind of keep it from that standpoint. So, but yeah, that's how I'd really answer that question. Attacking their demon is not really going to yield any fruit. It's not a weakness. It's actually an insanely huge strength, and it will definitely come out of the cage and consume you. Like, you will be in its belly, like in its belly. Like, seriously, don't want to do that. You want to go to the critic function to appeal to their inner wisdom. If their inner wisdom is not there, then you have full rights to go after their inferior function and stab it until they listen. Of course, that may create hatred, but you don't have any other choice by that standpoint at that point. So,
right. Okay. Next question: how do the types react to the loss of a family member or friend, or I guess just general loved one?
Well, SE users, it's like their memories are disappearing with that person being gone, and they need to hold on to memories. Like, for example, I knew this ENTJ woman whose ISTJ daughter died well before her time. She died when she'd just gotten out of high school and whatnot. It's a very sad story. And it's like she can't even remember what her daughter even looks like, without having pictures or at least these totems that remind her of her own daughter. And she's always afraid that she's just going to forget what she looks like. So SE users have that struggle. SI users can remember, but the thing is that it just becomes like a fade over time, etc. And that can also be a problem. Another approach, it's mostly perception based, quite honestly. Introvert intuition struggles because it's like that person's not going to be in my future anymore. Extrovert intuition struggles because like that person doesn't have a future anymore. It's just constant, and it mostly hits people in their perception functions. It can hit them in their decision making functions. TE users could be like, well, that person wasn't smart, or TI users should be like, I'm not going to make that decision. I'm glad I'm not going to make that decision, and I get to learn from that, or, an FI user is like, wow, I feel really bad for that person. Or an FE user is going to be like, I wish I cared more about that person. Right. So it's different, and just really depends what your function stack is. Some people deal with death easier than others, and it's usually the stoic SI users that do in the long run, and SE users end up having the biggest struggles. Like ISFPs would probably struggle the most with death. SFPs and NTJs out of all the types would struggle the most with death, for sure, hands down. With likely ISFPs having the hardest pain of death out of everybody, which is interesting because they go really well with the stoic ISFJ or ESFJ to help comfort them through that process. So just there's different different approaches for sure. But yeah, that was a really good question.
Okay. How would you recommend typing a child at a young age? Is there an approximate age to wait for their ego to develop, or is it enough to type, or is it possible to type them at any age? Thanks in advance.
Yeah, I would type them at any age. Just realize that they're going to potentially change in their quadra.
They could be anything in the quadra.
They could be anything in the quadra. Just type them over and over again. My son right now is holding at INFJ. He started out as ISTP, then he went ESTP, and then he's now holding at INFJ since his sister was born, and he cares for her deeply, and watches out for her, and INFJs her all the time, and she's an ISTJ, and she's staying at ISTJ. I could have made an argument that she went ENFP, but she's back to ISTJ mode. Specifically, she seems to be most comfortable in ISTJ land, and that's kind of where she's at. But yeah, they can change their quadra. But yeah, just keep typing them, keep monitoring them. But once they hit adolescence, that's it. That's who they are, and that's why teenagers are such a problem when they're at adolescence, because their ego is formed, and you have to deal with it. And they don't necessarily know how to deal with the fact that their ego is formed per se. It's new to them, and they're trying to get used to it. So,
all right. Next question is: how do you come back from your aspiring subconscious so you don't burn out and can use it the next day? What do you do after?
You basically introvert or extrovert to gain additional mental energy as needed.
Right. So basically, don't overly extrovert or don't overly introvert. You basically just need to control whether you're introverting or extroverting as a way of controlling your subconscious.
Yep.
Okay, what would an INTP and their ISFP superego behave like? How to recognize it happening and how to get back to ego?
The best portrayal of an ISTP and their superego, or an INTP and their superego, would be, I think, in Daredevil's season 1. Where the Kingpin character, who is an INTP, murders his father with a hammer. That is the best portrayal of an INTP superego I've ever seen. So if you want to learn more about that, watch the first season of Daredevil on Netflix.
Okay. Matthew84, I get the impression he knows you. He must have went to one of your meetings. I wanted to talk to you about possible hotel locations for meetings. You mentioned it last night at the cafe, but bounced. This is on the 26th of October, by the
way. I don't know because the venues that we've chosen for the meetup group, we've just been basically limited by budget, and that has been an issue for us. While we definitely are interested in doing the hotel venues with their big conference rooms and whatnot. For sure, that would have been a good approach, but we just really haven't had the budget for it. And truth be told, we're about to have our Vegas meetup, and if anyone wants to go to the Vegas meetup, it's on Monday. I think it's on Monday night. Yes, of next week, I'll be in Vegas. We're going to be meeting at a Starbucks, so there it is. But yeah, it's basically budgetary constraints. I mean, as we grow CSJ, we're definitely going to have a lot more venues, as well as potentially even have an entire networking conference available to people around the world to come, which could be held at Vegas or other venues and locations as a result. So definitely realize that it's a thing, and we're getting there, just not quite yet.
Okay, next question is development of hero and nemesis function correlated?
Yes, definitely. And I talk about this at length in season 16, episode 5, because they are on, they're not on an axis, but they're more in orbit of each other, and how they interact with each other, and energy does get exchanged, etc. So Jab, we're actually a little bit over on time right now. You want to do one or two more questions?
Yeah, we can. Let's just keep pushing forward. All right. So this person comes from someone called Leo, and they're asking, watching your vids on femininity and masculinity and the 4 pillars of self-intimacy, namely how gender has a role in it, I've been wondering how gay people fit into it, if they do at all.
Okay, yeah. Gay people, homosexual relationships, be it lesbian or just masculine relationships, one person chooses the yin role, the other person chooses the yang role, which means you end up having someone who takes on the masculine role and someone who takes on the feminine role. So all of my human nurture lectures from season 4, season 6, and season 13 directly apply to homosexual relationships based on the role that the person is taking within the relationship itself, basically. So remember, yang energy is more of the masculine, and yin energy, the pliable energy, the bendable energy, is more of the feminine, and that is directly applied. So just keep that in mind when you're watching seasons 4, 6, and 13 to that end.
Does type affect IQ? I think a few of these we could go through really quickly.
No, the answer to that is no. Even ESFPs or ENFPs with TI Trickster can have insanely high IQs. No, thank you. Type does not affect IQ at all.
How does SE Demon handle driving?
SE Demon handle driving. I have seen SE Demon handle driving personally.
You thrash the shit out of your cars?
Yeah, I destroy my cars. I absolutely destroy them. I over-rev the engine. They look like pieces of crap after I've driven them. I destroy vehicles like crazy.
Yeah.
Unless I care about the vehicle. If I care about it, then I will take very good care of it, and I will be very upset if someone else screws with it. But if I don't care about the vehicle, I'm going to treat it the way it is. It's a piece of crap. I'm going to treat it like a piece of crap. So that's basically the SE Demon approach. Also, SE Demons are very, very good at driving sometimes, especially I know I'm really good at driving. I have seen some ENFPs who are also insanely good driving to the point I've even seen INFPs. Like, for example, Ryan Gosling did this film called like Drive or Driver or something like that. I think it was Drive, actually. And he's an INFP in that film. And it's perfect. It's so well done seeing INFP driving in that regard. The discipline, the absolute control over the road is insane. And they can be really good drivers in street racing. Not something that I would recommend from like a drag racing standpoint. That's more of an SP thing and not really an NP thing, but to each their own.
All right. What is likely going to cause an ISTP to become depressed?
Lack of freedom, lack of choices, which will lead to melancholy and depression. And if they feel that they're being or think that they're being controlled, basically, and they have no control over their life, and because they have no control, then they have no freedom, and it's just lack of choice, basically.
Okay. Do you think your TI parent affects your understanding of cognitive functions and influences your attitudes towards depth psychology? Wouldn't an INFJ co-host be particularly helpful to you when typing others? Oh, this person's trying to get me replaced.
Yeah. The answer is no. But they're literally trying to claim. They're trying to claim that I'm biased. I'm biased, Jab. I'm biased. Obviously.
What a coincidence! The person who said maybe you should get an INFJ to help you type just so happens to be an INFJ.
Oh, really? Really? Now? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
TE parent is just sitting here like tapping its foot on the floor, arms crossed.
I know, right? Get that. Yeah, like it's kind of like that person from the movie Hook, and they have that chest of horrors that they put all these poisonous animals inside, and they throw a person inside that chest, and then throw them over the side of the ship. You know what I mean? Except we have something similar, except it's a chest full of I don't know, cats or something, lots of cat bites after that one. Oh, I'm tired. Forgive me.
All right, I think we do one more.
All right, one more.
Okay, how can I explain to my INTP who's unfamiliar with cognitive functions that I don't mean him any ill intent? He's had some really bad relationships in the past, a lot of cheating. Many of our fights stem from assumed ill intent. I have told him outright that I'm never trying to hurt him and have worked very hard to allay that fear.
Tell him to stop comparing you to other people from his past. You are your own person, and it is bullshit that this INTP is comparing you to other people in his past. You are not those people.
Right.
Like literally, no. Yeah, and literally tell him that if he keeps doing this, you're gonna leave him. Like that, you can literally tell him to his face, like, I don't want you anymore if you are going to do this to me. That's it.
Right.
I don't feel good about you, and I don't want you anymore. Say literally that sentence to him, or sentences to him directly. You will change your behavior, or I don't want you anymore, and you're not making me feel good. Bye-bye. Into the dumpster, that guy goes.
Dumpster. Anyway, I think that, do you want to take some quick questions from YouTube?
Yeah, okay. I'll do a couple fast questions from YouTube. Fire it up. Let's see what we got. Question. What advice should I give to an ENFP mother raising an ISFJ son, father's absence, both in the grip of their inferior? Ooh, that's rough. Assuming that they're not mistyped, basically do not give that ISFJ son any freedom whatsoever. Do not give him a choice ever. You tell him and you dictate and you obligate him to do everything and tell him what the standard is. Period. End of story. And he does not get a choice. That's the first thing. That's like the best thing you could do for an ISFJ son. You do not give him freedom. You structure everything appropriately. You tell him what he should do. You have to obligate him, which is really hard for an ENFP to do because the ENFP is like, you have choices, do whatever you want, which is like literally the worst thing you could ever do to an ISFJ son. Never do that to an INSJ. You have to tell them what to do. You have to tell them what they should do. You have to obligate them because they're very dutiful, right? So be very, very careful. And I have seen an ENFP father with an ISFJ son, and that was really hard. He actually was one of my very, very first coaching sessions I ever did. And it was about 5 or 6 years ago that I did this. And he's like, I'm having some real trouble with my son. What do I got to do? And I'm like, and I literally spent a whole afternoon with them just watching the interactions. And I'm like, look, you give him too many choices, man. You just got to be like, stop. Just stop giving him choices. You letting him make, you do that for your other son, but you don't do that for him. You have to tell him, like you have to look at him and be like, you're going to bed right now, get in bed, and direct him. And I tell this to an ENFP, and the ENFP is like, but I feel bad doing that. And I'm like, well, you need to feel good doing that because you're actually giving your son what he needs, and he'll respect you more, and he'll become a more respectable person as an ISFJ. Oh, really? And then he did it. And I remember him calling me, thanking me for that advice. And he actually texted me a couple months back and says, I'm still following your advice to this day. And my son's becoming he's growing into a man. It's amazing. Thank you for everything you did for me. And I'm like, wow, hearing that from an ENFP years later, that's rare. But yeah, that was really good for sure.
What about this one? Does meditation restore mental energy for both extroverts and introverts?
All right, hold on. So Yuffie's like, less choices? Really? Oh, come on, Yuffie. Like, seriously, I get that you're an INFP and maybe you consider that everyone else in the whole world has to have choices. Like, I get that. That's very any parent of you. Everyone has to have a choice, but you can't do that to an ISFJ son. You just can't do that to them. You have to limit their choices because, for example, when I say, here's an example for limiting choices. You have an SE user, an SENI user child, and you ask them, hey, do you want to go to bed now or do you want to go to bed in 5 minutes? You give them a choice. Versus the ISFJ, you tell them, you're going to bed now. You don't give them the choice because when you give them the choice, it engages their NI demon. You don't want to do that. You do not want to engage NI demon and teach NI demon that it can freely be a little hellion, basically, as an ISFJ little boy, right? You can't do that. You are actually harming the child by giving them those choices. You have to obligate them, tell them what their duty is, and tell them what their honor is, and then give them recognition for doing their honor and their duty. That's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying this horrible, evil thing of me, taking away their choice specifically. So that's why I'm saying that. It's not like me being an ass. Like it's not. It goes way beyond that. It's a lot deeper.
It goes way beyond you being an ass. Like that's just a small component of it.
Yeah, just a slight puzzle piece there, Jeff.
Yeah. What do we got? How do I get discipline? Type ENFP. How does an ENFP get discipline?
How does an ENFP get discipline? By forcing them to be willing to fail, forcing themselves to do things they've never done before, even if they fail, and consistently doing it over and over and over again until they make it a success. And that's how they develop self-discipline. Also, force themselves to be in courageous situations where they're putting themselves in danger. That's why I recommend martial arts, so that they can learn how to take the hits, basically.
How do I know if I'm mistyped ENTP? Find yourself an INTJ and see if you get along with them.
Find yourself
Find yourself a jab.
Find myself a job. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Periani with a question. I'm a Slitherclaw. What's your Hogwarts house and what's Jab's house?
I think they're the same.
I think I'm also a Slitherclaw if we're like mixing houses here. The houses are very subjective. I get that people are trying to use them to, or that J.K. Rowling is using them to emulate the temperaments, the 4 temperaments exactly, but they're not entirely like a full fit. It's kind of like how the MBTI initially approached the temperaments a long time ago before they got smart and realized that they were doing it wrong. But yeah, not that approach for sure. I mean, I'd like to say I'm Gryffindor, but my ISFJ side is Gryffindor, while my ENTP is more like a Slitherclaw, I guess. So Ravenpuff, there you go.
Yeah, someone convinced me to take that test on that Potter website, whatever it's called, and I got Slytherin, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
My Patronus was a rat, though, so
yeah. I'd rather have that than my Patronus. It was a wild boar. So
wild boar? Are you serious?
Yeah,
as if a rat is better than a boar. At least the boar can like run up and
impale people. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
What's a rat gonna do? Nibble on your cheese?
Well, I mean, you could take it from that movie. They're talking about that guy that's like, I know 200 ways to kill a man, and then the other guy interrupts him. It's like, well, you can glue an open jar of rats to a guy's face and blowtorch the other side of the jar, so the rats have to eat their way out through his face. You know what I mean? And then he's like, okay, now I know 201 ways to kill a man. So they'll tell me that rats aren't useful for something. You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta love that SE demon.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry, not sorry.
We can use a rat to eat through someone. How do psychedelics affect the mind?
It usually puts them in their subconscious, depending if they're like not on antidepressants or affected by other psychotropic drugs of some kind or other mind-altering substances. Yeah. So I think that's it, Jab. I think we're done.
Yeah. Any other announcements you want to make?
No, I think we're good. I'm exhausted. I need to go to bed. Thank you all for coming tonight. We'll see you all on our next stream, which will be 9 Eastern on Tuesday night, 9 Eastern time. I will be releasing season 21 episodes 5 or 6. I think it's 6 actually. Next, how to social engineer ESFJs. That is the next episode that will be released. And I'll be doing more season 10 and season 16 this weekend as well. I don't think I'll be premiering anything anytime soon, but who knows? I may change my mind. But those episodes are coming, so stay tuned for that. And also, thank you all for your support and everything that you do for this community. If you want to get your questions answered, please join the Discord server. The link is in the description of all of our lectures and all of our videos here on YouTube. Go to the Discord, make the account, verify with your phone number. No, we don't get to see or keep your phone number. It's just a security precaution. I don't get to see any of that. And then once you're on the Discord server, go to the questions channel, put in your questions there. We'll get them queued up and ready to go for our Q&A sessions that we have every week. So otherwise, thank you all for being here tonight. We love you very much and appreciate you very much. Anything else, Jab, before we close it?
In response to that statement, thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to get some sleep. See y'all later. Have a good night.
Yep. See you all.
All right. That's that.